Rampage has heavy nostalgic value to me. The moment I discovered it as a kid, I was drawn to it. Giant monsters, like the movies. That's King Kong. That's Godzilla. It's not, but we'll get to that. It was a game where you got to be the giant monster, eat people, punch your friends in the face, and just have fun. You put a quarter in, and this game delivered exactly what it promised. A rampage! Released in 1986 by Bally Midway, the Rampage Arcade cabinet allows up to 3 players to play at once. Each player takes control of a different monster and smashes the city. When the city is gone, you advance to the next level. It's brilliant! Chiefly conceived by designer Brian Collin and programmer Jeff Newman, Rampage actually has a bit of a fascinating origin story I only recently learned. Colin was pushing the tech team to start programming things like background animations. They told him the only thing they could animate like that would be a rectangle. So, Colin had them animate a rectangle. It could be a collapsing building, with smoke to hide the bottom. But what would smash a building like this? Giant monsters! And that's how Rampage came to be. The tech came first, and then the giant monster movie tributes. But that does not make the tributes less meaningful. We have George, the giant ape, who was inspired by King Kong, I mean, come on. And I've long thought Lizzie was a parody of Godzilla, but making this video, I learned that she's actually based on this creature from 20 million miles to Earth, Ymir. I tweeted this out, and oh my god, Brian Collin himself confirms this to be true. As an animator, I was a big Ray Harryhausen fan. And the Lizzie character had to fit in the same size sprites as the George character. Godzilla's butt was way too big. And that's something I'd never even considered. The scaling for Godzilla is all off, any way you slice it. And Ralph is literally George's body with a swapped head and a new color palette. That's why Ralph. To keep each experience fresh and new, the gameplay is filled with lots of variety and comedy. There are all sorts of characters hanging out of windows, military everywhere, there are zany monster antics. This is a cartoon world and we're playing by cartoon logic. The in-game story is pretty simple. All 3 monsters are actually humans that were transformed by different means. George was a scientist who mutated after taking an experimental vitamin. Lizzie was a woman who swam in a toxic lake and mutated as a result. And Ralph consumed a sausage with a food additive that transformed him. That's why Ralph. Speaking of Ralph, I never understood why his name has the exclamation point here. Are we supposed to shout it? George? Lizzie? Ralph! Ralph! Rampage, like Pac-Man and other arcade classics, feels endless. But there are, in fact, 768 levels. Rampage had a brilliant method to increase its value to arcades. You see, when a player loses their health, they revert back to human form. If the player doesn't put another quarter in the machine fast enough, they can be eaten by one of the other players, and thus humiliated. And back then, if you were humiliated in an arcade, your whole family had to move to a new town and school district. I love Rampage. For me, it's the simplicity and the tight controls that really make it very satisfying to play, as well as timeless. Some fun facts about Rampage: Brian Collin also did the cartoon art on the cabinet. How cool is that? And this is actually a picture of Collin right here as George, his real-life wife still to this day as Lizzie, and programmer Jeff Newman as Ralph. Between 1987 and 1990, Rampage was ported to many home consoles. Many home consoles. But some of these ports have unique and interesting changes that deserve a quick look. We won't cover a few systems such as MS-DOS and Tandy Color Computer 3, but we're going to look at almost all of the ports, so buckle up. I'll be judging these games on a pet scale. The better the game, the more pets my dog Andy gets. Whoops, fix your monitor settings. Oh, nope, it's fine. This is just Rampage on the ZX Spectrum. And we're off to a start, all right. The monsters look good, maybe even impressive. It's just that, well, they're clear. But make no mistake, this is Rampage. It's all here. And I know it resembles a 1990s Tiger game, but look at this. The whole building collapses. Not too bad, right? One pet. Let's load up Rampage on the Apple II. Hey, that title screen looks alright. Looks like Lizzie is a plush doll whose arm exploded with cotton. Look, Ralph still has the exclamation point. Ralph! Ralph! You are my king! This looks like someone took the Rampage Arcade game and ran it through a copy machine, and then copied that copy, and then copied that copy. This version is lagging, and a major fun part of the arcade version is its pace and momentum. Once you slow Rampage down, it feels more like a chore to play. 2 pets. Rampage for the Commodore 64. Now Lizzie's arm is straight up on fire. Can't even see the lady's eyes anymore. Look at how even in this character select menu, Ralph is Ralph! Ralph! Alright, not bad. I like how Ralph is purple. Now's a good time to point out a consistency in pretty much all of these ports. Having the Rampage monsters look directly at you when they're in rest. It seems that this was consciously made to be a part of the game's branding. 3 pets and an ear scratch. There's another version of Rampage on Commodore 64. Apparently, we just played the European version, and this here is the United States version. This one looks a little cleaner in my opinion, although the characters lose some detail. Look at George's disgruntled Mr. Wilson face. Oh, that pesky neighbor kid gotta stay out of my garden. 3 pets and I'll scratch the other ear. Rampage for the Atari 7800, and it's nice to know that no matter what the graphic limitations are, they will make sure they work in that girl's boobies. I like this one because it kind of looks like a chibi, super deformed take on Rampage. But gripping onto the buildings is a pain in this one. You have to be on the exact right spot for the monster to be able to climb. That takes a lot of fun out of this Rampage. 3 pets. It's easy to imagine Rampage making it to the Atari 7800, but what about the Atari 2600? There's no way they even tried that, right? Feast your eyes! George looks like E.T. The military is there, but I can't tell when I'm getting hit. These buildings are weird. I'm sure they look fine at first, but once you start destroying them, then what the hell? It becomes a pain to quickly assess what you can grip on and climb and what you can't. It looks like it's spelling if. Like, what if I were able to continue my life not knowing this port existed? 1 pet and barely any contact. Rampage on the Nintendo Entertainment System, and you might have noticed this one has different box art than all the other versions. It just shows George and Lizzie. Where's Ralph? He's sitting this game out. Yeah, this game only has 1 or 2 players. Look at how George has to sit in for Ralph's spot on the title screen, and no arm punches through the logo holding the woman. Also, now Lizzie's arm's an egg? Otherwise, it's a decent port. It served its purpose in letting us kiddies play Rampage at home, but it's not my favorite home port. 3 pets and 2 ear scratchies. Rampage on the Amiga. It is Rampage on the Amiga. Mine's playing a little glitchy. Could just be the emulator. Unrateable. Rampage on the Sega Master System, let's go! This was the first version of Rampage I ever played, even before the arcade version. It's also contender for Best Port. It has a really nice polish, and unlike with the NES, all 3 monsters are here. It plays well too, with nice controls. This one gets Andy 3 pets, 2 ear scratchies, and a nice tummy rub. Oh, who's a good boy? Oh, who's a good boy? Oh, my baby boy. Red rocket, red rocket, red rocket. We're almost out of the woods, and things are about to get really interesting with the Atari Lynx port, because what's this? This port has a 4th monster, a rat named Larry, and he looks all strung out like one of those puppets in Peter Jackson's Meet the Feebles. The Atari Lynx version feels so different because it's not a fixed screen like the other versions. This one has the screen moving on the X and Y axis, completely altering the feel of the game. But you can see how this is a step closer to what would become Rampage 2 down the line. It's definitely a special version of Rampage, but it doesn't feel like Rampage proper. 3 pets for Rampage 1.5 over here. And a butt scratchy. The last video game port I want to bring up is this combo cartridge for the Game Boy Advance. Paperboy, and Rampage. First of all, who the f*** is playing Paperboy? Why is this game so popular? Show me the Paperboy fans. Show me the people who enjoy this diagonal screen anxiety nuke of a game. But the other reason I'm bringing up this port is because I legit think this is the best port before we start seeing Rampage and all these anthology treasure collections later on. On Game Boy Advance, you can unfortunately only play one player, so that does take some kick out of it, but the game speed and controls in this version are top-notch. So favorite ports, I'd say Game Boy Advance for single player, and Sega Master System for multiple players. Worst is clearly going to go to the Atari 2600, but did it ever really have a chance? Did it? As a bonus, let's take a quick peek at the Tiger handheld version of Rampage. You can actually choose between all three monsters, so Tiger has one up on the NES. How often do you actually hear that? Actually, I have to admit, a lot of what makes Rampage Rampage is here. More so than you'd see on, say, Spectrum. Look at how it handles the buildings being destroyed. That's not bad given its limitations. So there you go, a decent Tiger game? Relatively speaking? And after all this, like I said, we start getting to the Midway Arcade treasure collections and the like. Ports that are able to be true to the arcade version without compromise are now available to play at home. And it is here that our Rampage story ends. Unless you want me to cover the sequels in a future video, in which case leave a request below. Otherwise, I'd love to know which ports of Rampage you played and which are your favorites. I hope you liked this video, and I hope, like me, you got to learn something you didn't already know. Enjoy!